We have to talk about the intellectual dark web. The New York Times, about the renegades of the intellectual dark web. And you really just got to see it to believe it with this stuff, where they talk in glowing terms about Sam Harris, Christina Hoff Sommers, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin. They are the they're the darkness. They're the underground, secretive, clandestine dark web, the dissident establishment, or not even the dissident rebellion against the establishment. They talk about how they will say things like, men and women aren't the same. Whoa. Free speech should be allowed. Oh, can you handle it? Homosexuals can be Republican too. What? My world is shaking. My world is debris falling from the ceiling. What? Drag queens at a free speech rally? My tiny Democrat brain can't handle it. And so they talk about how these guys are really dark and underground. And I really just have to say this. Look, you know, me and Richard Spencer have had our difficulties in the past. We've had trouble before, and certainly we don't agree on everything. But let me just lay this out for you really clearly, okay? You've got Richard Spencer, who you might not agree with him, you might not like him, whatever. But here he is. He goes out there, he's got a message. He says, I believe in white identity. I believe in a white racial consciousness. I'm against egalitarianism, blah, blah, blah. He says this thing. In response, he gets kicked off of every payment processor in the country. PayPal, Stripe. He gets kicked off. He gets kicked out of his gym. He gets kicked off social media. He gets de-verified. He gets punched in the face. He's out there. He gets sucker punched. Whenever he does a demonstration, he just gets chased by a mob. He organizes demonstrations. People go and shut them down. The police let them. Either they show up and they actively beat up his supporters, or they mace them, or they hit him with baseball bats or lead pipes, and the police either cooperate, or they allow it to happen, they facilitate it, or they just let it go. People threaten to blow up his house with grenades. He's just like the international pariah, and because he says things that people don't like, right? That's Richard Spencer. Anybody who supports him is done. They're finished. They're gone. They if you appear on the same screen as him, you'll never work in this town again. And that's Richard Spencer, okay? Then you have somebody like Dave Rubin, who makes $30,000 a month. $30,000 a month on Patreon. He's on YouTube. He doesn't get demonetized. He's on Twitter. He doesn't get de-verified. He's a homosexual Jew living in L.A. He's got massive support, 700,000 subscribers. Nobody would hesitate to watch that show, share that show, for mainstream people to come on. He refuses to have people like Richard Spencer. And which one does the New York Times puff up as the dark web? Which one does the New York Times puff up as the underground, the clandestine, the dissident? Who's really putting out a dangerous idea? This guy who gets puff pieces written about him on the New York Times by the liberal press? Or is it the other guy? And look, again, all judgments aside, just think about it. Just think about that comparison. You don't have to like either one of them. You don't have to agree with either one of them. But just think about that. Isn't that just a load of garbage? Isn't that just a load of nonsense? And you got to imagine being Richard Spencer. And it's like people are punching you. People are threatening to blow up your house. Every day you wake up, you're kicked out of something, kicked off of something. You got to look over your shoulder. And your life just like is very difficult because of this, because you have a different opinion. And then all over the media, they're like, look at these people. They're the underground. They're the dangerous ones. How frustrating. You know, I have to feel for them. So, but that was that article. What a load. What a bunch of absolute nonsense. That was the New York Times. Joshua Larson says, am I wrong to cringe when pundits like Brett Weinstein pat themselves on the back and label their milquetoast ideas as the intellectual dark web? Absolutely, because it's not dark, and it's not even intellectual. What it is centrism, and it's not even original. Ben Shapiro goes out there. He has never contributed to the discourse a single original idea, a single original theory. You know, people have it like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, Sam Harris. These are intellectual titans. Somebody like Ben Shapiro, Christina Hoff Sommers, they have never contributed a single new, fresh idea in their lives. It's all reheated neoconservatism, reheated neoliberalism. I could predict everything Ben Shapiro says based on watching Milton Friedman's free to choose lecture series from the 1970s. And that should tell you everything. So these people are they're not original, they're not fresh, they're not dark, they're not intellectual. It's safe, PC, kosher centrism, and poorly delivered. I'm watching Ben Shapiro's podcast today, and he's got this weird tick where he talks, and he does this shaking thing with his head. He's like, today we're talking about Iran, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm Ben Shapiro, this is Ben Shapiro. He does this weird thing with his head, and it's just the least charismatic thing I've ever watched. The delivery is so uninspired, so uninteresting. And the takes are always making the world smaller, making the world a small, stupid, ugly place. That is Ben Shapiro's job. Everything is stupid. I'm smart, and everyone is stupid, and everything is stupid, and everything is small, and I don't believe in anything. I've seen it all before. I'm Ben Shapiro. I'm 30-some years old, and I've seen it all. Nothing impresses me. I have no dreams. Nothing awes me, and none of that. I make the world small because I'm small, and I hate that mentality. I hate that mentality. We have to hate that kind of evil with a passion. Our movement is about grandiosity and about love and about vision, tremendous imagination. We want to love the world and believe in the world. We are greater than ourselves. We have souls. We were put here for a reason by a creator. And you have to have awe for things. We are living in a miraculous time right now. And for this little man to get on and say, oh, well, my father got me a couple of jobs, and so nothing impresses me anymore. I hate that mentality. Fundamentally, not Christian.